will the S23 Ultra be the best phone of 2023? You're probably wondering why I'm asking that question. Well, I think that from a price perspective, flagship premium, like basically if you look at phones with all the bells and whistles, I said the S22 Ultra was the best phone that you could buy. Now, of course, I said the Pixel 7 I thought was the best for most people because of the price and everything else that it offered, performance-wise, Tensor G2, amazing camera. But not everybody wants to buy a $499 phone or a $599 phone, which has been on sale for $100 off a lot here. So looking at the more expensive, premium, upper flagship level, that's what Samsung brings to the table with their Ultra series phone. And every year, it seems like the phone is either in contention or one of the best phones of the year, but it comes out first. And you're probably wondering, how does that happen? Or maybe you're not wondering it, and now you are now that I made this video and I put the thought into your head. But other than the inception topics, talking about the S23 Ultra, could it possibly be the best phone of 2023? And I think quite reasonably, yes, that's something that we can probably expect. Why is that? Well, one, Samsung makes basically the best panels out there for phones. Even though this phone is a year old, this is the S22 Ultra, even though it's a year old, I still think it has the best screen of 2022. And probably that's a very arguable statement to make. When you look at what Samsung does, they basically make all the screens for the best phones that are out there. They even make the screens for the iPhones. They make screens for a lot of phones. They not only make their own, but they sell them to other companies as well. So you could probably imagine that Samsung retains the best possible stuff for themselves, which isn't true because if you look at some other screens in some other areas, they are a little bit better. But across the board, and when it comes to their flagship phones, they don't go soft. They go hard whenever it comes to their phones, and especially when it comes to the displays. So another thing that could make this the best phone of the year is it seems like they're abandoning the Exynos chip. So it's been like a tale of two cities when it comes to Samsung phones. Here in the US, we're always like, yeah, we got the new Snapdragon chipset, the new Samsung phone. We're always like, yes, it's so awesome. And then you have people that chime in the comments and you realize, oh yeah, you guys over on the other side of the world got screwed over with the Exynos chipset, which is much inferior and has more heat issues and throttling and just isn't all that great. So it looks like that this is going to be the first time that everybody's finally going to get the Snapdragon chipset. That right there alone is really going to raise the phone stock up internationally, globally, all over the place because everybody's going to get the Snapdragon 8 Generation 2. At least that's how it looks anyway. It looks like Samsung finally realized nobody wanted their crap Exynos chipsets and is moving on, and at least for the next year or two going to be using Snapdragon chipsets from Qualcomm. That's fantastic. However, there is the other part of the equation where it looks like Samsung might actually be manufacturing some of those chips in their plants, so we could still theoretically end up with an inferior Qualcomm Snapdragon chip. But anyway, they've been doing this for a long time. If you remember back to the Snapdragon 835 that was in the Samsung Galaxy S8, that was the first year that Samsung actually made like half of the chips and manufactured them, which is why they got the exclusivity for the first phone to be able to launch with that chip. And that actually really messed up LG because then LG historically used to launch their phone around the same time, if not slightly earlier, and they couldn't get their hands on it because Samsung had the rights to use it first, and they ended up going with the Snapdragon 821, I believe, inside of the G6, which was still a good phone, but yeah, it wasn't on the same level, and I think that actually started part of the downfall when it came to LG. But anyway, whole other story. Yes, Samsung looks like it's primed to get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Generation 2 in all of the phones, and I'm really excited for everybody who will get to experience that. So, not only do they have the top-notch hardware, they have the best screens, they've got a big 5,000 milliamp battery. If you look at the Ultra, it's also got the S Pen, because of course this phone used to be the Note, it's no longer the Note, now it's the Ultra, but a lot of people like to affectionately call it the Note anyway. And the S Pen does offer a lot of great things because you get the motion gestures and you get to be able to use it as a remote shutter. You can do it for photos and for video and do all sorts of crazy things with it. So that's nice. We like having the S Pen. And of course, it's very expensive. They spare no expense. It's like when you talk about Jurassic Park and John Hammond, everything is like, oh, spare no expense, spare no expense. That's Samsung. Of course, they like to charge you for it too. But this is a conversation, I think, exclusively for the Ultra. Because if you take a look at the actual S22 and the S22 Plus, definitely not the best phones of this last year. They don't really compete in a lot of the same ways that the Ultra does because the Ultra brings everything. it brings the lowest refresh rate on the screen, that it throttles down because it's got the LTPO screen instead of the LTPS that was in the 22 and the 22 Plus. It also has the 120 hertz refresh rate, Quad HD Plus. It really goes the extra mile to put everything in there, which, much to my frustration, because they really do water down the lower series phones to prop up this one on a pedestal. But you're also going to get the best cameras. And they are putting, it looks like, the 200 megapixel camera in here. And I just read some more rumor stuff today. It's a new sensor that looks like it's supposed to be pretty darn powerful. Well, Samsung has had the best zoom in the game for the last couple of years because they have that 100 times zoom on here. You can really reach out and touch stuff. You can take amazing pictures of the moon with ease. So they're going to continue down that road, double down. Looks like they're going to the 200 megapixel camera. Does that necessarily mean they're going to win? No. And I actually have the phone that has the best smartphone camera right here, the Huawei Mate 50 Pro. And I'm really excited to make a video about this. I just got it in today, so it's going to be a little bit before I get a video on it. But I'm really excited about it because Huawei, to me, has made the best hardware and the best cameras in phones for a very, very long time. They just, well, they can't sell them in the US anymore because they got blacklisted and they're not allowed to have Google services. So there are kind of some workarounds there. But I was very happy to get this sent out to me so I can test it out as a review unit. But Samsung overall, I said this last year, they don't have the best camera in the world. But I think they have the best overall set of cameras. They've got a great macro, they've got a great telephoto, they've got the 100 times zoom, they've got amazing video, they've got 8K video, they've also got the 4K 60 on the front and the back. And to me, the S22 Ultra had the best selfie camera of last year. So it looks like they're going to go all in with the same selfie camera on the 23, 23 Plus, and the Ultra this time. I hope that's not true, but they really know where their bread and butter's at. They put a lot of emphasis on the selfie camera, and you can even see this in some of their other phones. Selfie cameras are where it's at nowadays. Yes, it's important to have a great primary shooter, but the selfie camera is so important because everybody loves to do the short form media now. They love to do, they call it vertical video now. They talk what we used to refer to as portrait mode, but we're talking about TikTok and YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and all that stuff. So Samsung goes 100%. They put all these amazing things in there, and they give you the big battery. They give you decent charging. I wish it was a little bit faster, but just, it's one of those things. If you're going to charge $1,199 for the phone, well, it's going to be something that should be at least considered in the best bracket. But what also gives them the longevity and staying power is how the phone cycles actually work out. So at the beginning of the year, we get the new Snapdragon. So it's going to be the 8th generation 2 with the S23 Ultra when it comes out here in a couple of weeks. That's fantastic. It's an amazing chip. A lot of improvements, especially in the heat and the power efficiency brackets compared to the Snapdragon 8th generation 1 of last year in the S22 Ultra. So what's going to happen halfway through the year is we're going to get the Plus model. Well, it's just a slightly tweaked and refined version of the already existing chip. So we had the Snapdragon 8th generation 1. Later on in the year, we get the 8 Plus generation 1. Of course, that'll be the Fold 5 and the Flip 5 and whatever else Samsung actually comes out with. But it's only a slight upgrade. And this year it gave us, mostly the upgrade was in the power efficiency, and they found some ways to dial that back, gave us light mode with the Fold and things like that. But overall, there's not a big substantial change later on in the year. So what Samsung does is, bam, they front load the best possible hardware that they can get into their Ultra series phone at the beginning of the year. It has some really good staying power. And then if you look around though, a lot of Android phones don't cost as much. They actually cost less in a lot of regards. So you'll get something like the Google Tensor chip, or previously with the LG phone, their hardware and their software wasn't quite on the same level. And then you also look at some of the other foreign ones. Most people are spending their money in the mid-tier sector now when it comes to phones, not so much in the flagship arena. So there's less competition there, and it allows Samsung to kind of stay up at the top of the game, not just because of notoriety, but because they actually make some really good handsets. And of course, One UI 5 now, 4 years of operating system updates, 5 years of security patches, and they get their security patches as quick, and if not more quick and more reliably than Google in some cases. So that's a lot of the reasons why these phones hold up so well. Even when you look at the end of the year, and if you look at a lot of people that like to do end of the year phone awards, the Samsungs, they're always way up at the top. But for me, there's a little bit more to the conversation than just throwing everything in the kitchen sink at a phone. I believe also in value. And that's where the Pixel phones come in and why I really like them, because the Pixel 7, Pixel 7 Pro, Pixel 6a, upcoming Pixel 7a later on this year just brings so much power, sophistication, value. And look, you get that Google camera experience which is the best camera out there in the market basically right now, especially in the US, if you can get that in a $499 on sale Pixel 7, do you really want to go buy a $1,200 S23 Ultra? You might not want to. So that's the other part of the equation I like to talk about. It's not, yeah, heir apparent. Yes, we could say the S22 Ultra, for all intents and purposes, could have been the best possible phone to buy in 2022, but it may not be the best possible phone for everybody to buy, right? So just some food for thought, some little insights that I wanted to put out there regarding how Samsung does business, how they do things with their chipset, how they do things with their cameras, and kind of the cutting edge stuff that they like to do, plus their own hardware production in-house, especially with their screens. Really makes for a top-notch phone and allows them to stay relevant, and also why it's going to be in the conversation at the end of 2023 for, of course, the best phone of the year. So that's all I've got. What do you think? Did you like the additional perspective, the different thoughts that I kind of brought into this, talking about why they do such a good job, why they sell, and also kind of their notoriety out in the smartphone world? Let me know what you think. And if you have any questions or comments, please go to the comment section. I'll try and get back to you there. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.